Hello, everybody. Welcome to DeRazzled, the podcast that takes award-winning worst films and fixes them. Except for today, because we're picking up back where second unit left off last week by continuing our discussion of Satire and Starship Troopers. As we mentioned in the last episode, when we recorded this, it was about the time of the 25th anniversary of the film's release in 1997, so we thought we were being timely for that reason. Who'd have thought we'd be timely in the sense of a time of extreme problems with media comprehension and satire kind of being impossible. Oh, boy. Well, I'm not going to belabor you with that at any point. We're just going to get right into the episode here, picking up where we left off. We're going to be talking a bit about the last bits of production and post-production of the film, the reception of the film, and how it's kind of absurd that the satire was missed. You'll see as we get into it. We had a lot of fun with this one. We hope you enjoy the rest of it, and we will see you next week when we start covering Showgirls.
So yeah, getting back to the plot, again, like Johnny Rico becomes an officer, and then the last beat of the movie does take place where there's like, and again, in this place it's like, well, you know, why don't they just bomb the planet? It's because they're gonna go looking for the brain bug. And so Johnny and his troops go and look for the brain bug.
Yeah, they learned that everything that happened on the misinformation they had on Planet P was purposeful because of games and theory.
Yeah.
I love the dark lines under Neil Patrick Harris's eyes the further you get into the movie. Where you can see it's really having wearing on him.
And then so the last beat of the book, it's they pull a Hobbit. They pull Johnny Rico gets knocked out and comes to, and they won the war. Sergeant Zim, Zim did it. Zim got the bug.
Zim got the bug.
So
the fact that he actually knocked himself down to private so that he could fight.
So good.
Also, fucking Dean Norris popped up in there. I was not expecting to see Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad. I completely forgot he was in this.
Yeah, Officer Dean Norris. So good.
Yeah.
He and Clancy Brown, so good. Clancy Brown doing his best Arlie Ermey impression.
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
And a fun fact about Clancy Brown, actually, that I learned reading over some of this stuff here. So he signed on to the project specifically because of the satirical angle that it was taking. He read the script and he saw the overtly fascist stuff that he was going to be saying, and he was like, "That's what attracted me. Actually, was the not so subtle fascist comments. That's much more salient to Verhoeven's world as a European, but completely valuable as a cautionary message." He got it right away, and that's why he wanted to participate in the film.
Based anti-fascist Clancy Brown.
You love to fucking see it.
But yeah, largely that's the plot of the book, especially in terms of the differences between the book and the movie. And yeah, the movie plays up. And there's no overt fascist. It's the through line, but it's an undercurrent. It's not there. There's no romance.
No friendship shit, really.
Yeah, no, again, it's characterization is pretty minimal. It's all about the ideas. The big reveal at the very end is that Johnny Rico is Filipino. That's a big deal. So he talks about the language of my people. He makes an aside about the language of his people. Tagalog.
I was forgetting if it's Tagalog or Tagalog, or I'm not entirely sure how that's pronounced. But
so Johnny Rico is Filipino, and that's a big deal. And it again, Heinlein wants you to have this, again, I being a preteen, white boy from relatively middle America, I am Heinlein's audience, and he wants you to inhabit this character, and then, oh, by the way, he's Filipino. Again, you can say what you want about his politics, and a lot of them are terrible, but he is at least trying to be a little bit inclusive, although there's also some terrible racially essentialist stuff apparently that happens in other books of his. But he just is trying to get, kids from rural America like me, thinking about this character, OPG Dubs, he is different than you in a way you didn't expect.
That's why he's so interesting. He's not straight up awful the whole way around. There's moments okay, well, you had the right idea on this thing or this thing, especially when you were writing the time period.
I want to put a pin in Johnny Rico's race for just a minute there, because that's definitely something we're going to come back to later. So instead of a lot of that stuff, we ended up getting the kind of conflicted love triangles between Rico and Carmen and Dizzy, and Rico, Carmen, and Xander. Yeah, so we ended up with those storylines kind of carrying a lot of the human element forward.
And I'm sure you can guess, which of those characters was added based on the name, because this is so 90s that of course they added the character named Xander.
Absolutely.
This has nothing to do with anything, but it was my favorite scene in the movie. There's a bar fight between Xander and Rico, and the background music is "Fade Into Me" by Mazzy Star, which and this was like, this is a really weird choice, but then I'm like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah, it ruled.
There's no weird indoor arena football in the book. It's a damn shame.
It is a damn shame. Yeah, the fucking jump ball or future ball or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, but ultimately those changes helped get the studio to back the project and approve a budget. Davison managed to get a very detailed $90 million budget approved for this film, but only because there was a cost-sharing agreement they were able to reach with Touchstone Pictures. Every studio was really fucking gun-shy whenever it came to big budgets, because this is right on the heels of Waterworld absolutely tanking. Getting into the actual pre-production and whatnot of this, so a lot of the filming for the Earth scenes was done in the Astaire building on the Sony lot, but the outdoor settings for Klendathu and Planet P were a lot harder to find. As you may recall, if you're a history buff, there were a couple of government shutdowns that took place in late 1995 into early 1996, because Bill Clinton didn't want to let Newt Gingrich and the Republicans in Congress put in a bunch of budget cuts. Time is a flat circle. God damn it. So that made it almost impossible for them to get any permitting for national parks or any other government-owned land. So they ended up just searching far and wide for anything they could possibly get their hands on. And then location manager Bill Bowling managed to strike gold when he stumbled upon Hell's Half Acre in Casper, Wyoming. The look of this place was absolutely perfect in terms of like the rocky outcroppings and whatnot. Like it really gave that like desert kind of feel to the place without them actually having to go to a place that was government controlled. However, it did add like an hour-long commute at 5 a.m. Also, the land wasn't developed, so they had to build roads to get everything into place. Also, anything that couldn't be driven had to be brought in by helicopter. Also, the weather was wildly erratic, bouncing from blizzard conditions to 115-degree heat to 80-mile-per-hour winds. Also, the place was just lousy with rattlesnakes. Okay, so it wasn't
there
cold.
We go.
It was an absolute fucking hellscape.
I'm like, if you leave out the fucking rattlesnakes, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah. Amazingly, nobody got bit by a rattlesnake.
Not that everybody survived, though.
I was actually just about to get to that. There were other issues that popped up in the midst of this production. Unfortunately, 2 crew members were killed in a car accident. They were actually on their way back from a vacation, on their way back to Casper, Wyoming. The only person that survived the crash was the girlfriend of one of the crew members, and the cast and crew raised money for her recovery, and the studio offered counseling services to the cast and crew after the event. That's a bummer. That is an awful thing that happened. It's not the only of the difficulties they faced, though, because there was actually another incident. June 29th, 1996, they're about to fly back to L.A. so that they can finish filming on sound stages and whatnot. And flight attendants refused to serve a visibly intoxicated crew member. How do you think that guy responded to not being served?
He took over the plane and went to a bar.
That would have been simpler.
Oh boy.
Steve, what do you think he did?
Threatened to hijack. It was a simpler time. It was pre 9/11, so hijacking.
Toilet wine.
Not the.
He didn't threaten to hijack it. He muttered something under his breath about a bomb.
Oh no!
He said the magic word.
He T.J. Millered it.
He kind of T.J. Millered it. So he muttered something about a bomb, prompting the entire plane to be evacuated, the cargo searched, and the passengers detained. He was eventually arrested, and the rest of the crew had to fly back the next day, which was supposed to be arrest day, and ultimately that cost the production a whole day of filming.
But
speaking of losing time and losing days of filming, I mentioned the weather was absolutely horrific in this place at Hell's Half Acre. Almost daily, when there weren't blizzard conditions, about a dozen people would get heat stroke, including at one point Jake Busey.
Oh no!
And that particular our boy ended up getting heat stroke that ended up shutting production down for a week.
Damn.
At a cost of $1.5 million a day.
Wow! In 1990s money, too.
In 1990s money.
They need to get that boy some Pedialyte.
Like a lot of Pedialyte, yes. Speaking of Jake Busey, a lot's been made of the actual cast of this film. A lot of people pan them for being wooden or kind of mannequin-esque. A lot of people at the time blame them for making the movie bad, but I think that's an unfair critique.
They were perfect for the story that was being told.
Yeah, like they are good little vaguely Aryan,
right?
propaganda models. Like they're perfect.
Yeah. And that's all by design, because Verhoeven was literally pulling from Nazi propaganda films as his inspiration for a lot of this work. Like he literally says in multiple interviews that he's trying to make it seem like he was pulling from Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will. Like that was like, particularly in like the propaganda news bits, like he's actively trying to present that image to help drive home the satire of it all. And that's why he went with like relatively lesser known, teen soap opera style actors instead of going with some of the other people who auditioned, like Mark Wahlberg and Matt Damon.
Damn it.
I would love to have seen Mark Wahlberg instead of.
We can't get away from him.
Casper Van Dien, but
I don't know. There's something about Casper Van Dien's kind of like blank slate Rico that I think really works for the satire of this.
Oh yeah,
but we'll talk more. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. There was one other noteworthy difficulty about this production, which this one you guys might already be aware of, just because it gets talked about a lot. The shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to do the shower scene. Everybody was really uncomfortable with the idea of it. So, in order to make that work, a compromise had to be struck. I think it was actually Dina Meyer who looked at Verhoeven and said, "Only if you do it first."
Ooh.
So Verhoeven was like, "Sure." So he sent all unnecessary crew off the set. He stripped down. The director of photography, Joost Vakano, he also stripped down entirely.
Attaboy.
And then after that, the remaining cast was just like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And they were they're a little hesitant, but then once they started, they pretty quickly got undressed and made they got it done. They made it all work.
I do want to point out that he did say take as much time as you need to undress.
He did say, he did specifically say, like, do it at your comfort. Like, I'm not rushing you. Take the time you need. But they all ended up doing it fairly quickly. So there was another detail that a lot of them didn't know at that time, though, and that's that Joost Vakano had actually grown up on a nudist colony. So he was probably the most comfortable he had ever been on any film set. He was just like, oh, hell yeah, these pants are awful.
So the shower scene, it's just like, it's while they're at basic training,
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a nude co-ed shower scene, as one does, boys and girls, showering together, talking like, learning some plot. Shijumi is doing this interview.
Yeah, you're learning why all these people are doing what they're doing, and it helps flesh out the world a little bit more. Like, you learn that you can't serve as a politician unless you're a citizen.
Pun
you can't
not intended.
apply for
Flesh out. Right.
Damn it! I didn't even mean to do that. You can't apply for a license to have a kid if you don't serve.
It makes it
things
easier,
like that,
yeah.
Right?
Which is they're definitely like, that was not I think present in the book, but it's a super good like fashy element to add in, like
Yep.
You gotta get a license to have babies, right?
I don't think
There's
Rico's
this little eugenics
served.
element that we're going to see in there.
I think I read that Verhoeven wanted to have, like, in the future, you won't have sexualized bath time. Something akin to that.
Yeah, that's part of what he was doing there was because he's Dutch. A lot of his a lot of his upbringing, a lot of the culture there, it's that violence in media is fucking weird. Sexuality's not.
Right.
That's very normal. So he was using that as a moment to kind of highlight that, and he had tried doing that before, actually, in the locker room scene in RoboCop. Given it's very easy to miss because by his own admission, he didn't shoot it that well, and there's only like one topless woman, like just like somewhere in the shot. So he was like, "No, I need to make sure nobody misses it this time."
Well, so, good job.
That'll be damned.
Yeah, mission accomplished. But yeah, no, he really wanted to highlight this strangely egalitarian feature of this like hyper fascistic society that he's built. With all of that covered here, I have a couple more things I want to get into about the post-production of the film before we get into the reception and talking a little bit more in depth about the satire of the film adaptation itself. So let's take a quick break and then we'll jump back in with that stuff.
Great.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we jump into the real meat of what we want to talk about with satire in this movie here, I do want to touch on a couple of quick points regarding post-production. The propaganda newsreels that were almost all shot in post, mostly in and around LA. There was no opportunity to get these done during filming, largely because second unit coverage was shot at the exact same time as primary footage. The exception being whenever they needed to get coverage of Clancy Brown's little fashy bits during his drill sergeanting and whatnot. Roughly half the film's budget, which by the end of production had grown to somewhere between 100 and 110 million, was devoted to special effects. And funding for this was contingent upon them using Sony Pictures Imageworks. They were not allowed to outsource the entirety of the work anywhere else. This was to cover roughly 500 shots. Roughly 500 shots required special effects work of some degree. There's an interesting comment here from the book The Making of Starship Troopers. A highly placed employee of the Starship Troopers production said that Sony Pictures Imageworks was poorly managed, disorganized, and rarely on set or involved in production. While another said that SPI's priorities were split with developing effects for the science fiction film Contact, which came out in 1997. So dealing with SPI was a bit of a frustration point throughout the special effects process. But it turned out, because, again, 500 shots and a bunch of bugs and a bunch of spaceships and shit, really required a ton of work. So in order to get everything done in a timely fashion, they did end up outsourcing some of the work to Industrial Light and Magic, Boss Film Studios, and a couple of other studios to actually make everything happen. And if I'm not mistaken, the like 18-foot long models of the Star Cruisers were done by ILM.
Obviously.
Yeah, that absolutely tracks. I'm pretty sure those still exist somewhere too, which makes sense because I mean, if Phil Tippett still has those fucking bugs lying around somewhere, I'm sure somebody's got those starships somewhere as well.
I was thinking, I'm like, they look pretty good for CGI.
Right?
JK, probably not CGI.
Not CGI. There were 2 rough cut screenings shown to the studio execs, and those were met with a lot of enthusiasm and even ignited talks for a sequel. Of which, I will note, there are several, including one, the most recent of which that came out in 2017.
I have not seen the sequels, but I can only imagine that they are like prime B movies, like returning to the roots from whence Starship Troopers emerged.
So there is actually one source I forgot to acknowledge in the beginning, and that is a Q&A that Verhoeven and Van Dien did at the Lincoln Center, if I'm not mistaken, done for the 20th anniversary release of the film. And they do mention that the sequels have like a tenth of the budget, so there's a lot of effects work that's just not done or done way on the cheap. So it looks very different. and that apparently they lean even further into the fashiness of the world.
Satirically or not?
I would imagine satirically, but I'm a little wary.
Hard to say.
Yeah, it's a little hard to say. I mean, I'm a little worried that you're getting a little bit of American History X kind of stuff going on there, where you take it a little bit too earnestly, and then the wrong people take the wrong message.
That was my concern as well. Yeah,
but I can't say for sure because I've also not watched any of these like 6 sequels. While those rough cut screenings did go very well, of course, test audiences were another issue. In particular, test audiences absolutely hated Denise Richards' character, Carmen Ibanez.
Really?
Yep. Audiences loathed her because she chose her career over Johnny Rico, and they actually wanted her to die at the end instead of Xander.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a real thing that people said. Also, on top of that, there was originally an ending scene where Johnny and Carmen share another kiss, and that was cut from the film because test audiences found it immoral, claiming that she could not have been in love with both Johnny and Xander.
Heinlein would disagree.
And well, here's the thing. In my notes, I have a subhead under this that says "insert screaming," but now it's insert irony because I didn't know that bit about Heinlein. That's actually hilarious thinking about Heinlein in relation to this.
Jesus. Who were the test audiences? Like
bunch of fucking Karens. I don't know, man.
I think I forget the theater's called, but I think they do test screenings in Pittsburgh every once in a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My understanding is, like, you're on a list, you are this demographic, they invite you to watch it for free.
I would believe that.
How do we get onto that?
You know what? I'll ask around. I'm curious.
Is Rob on one of those lists? Does he do test screenings?
I'm sure he would know how to be.
That makes sense. Rob knows stuff. Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that. If anything, to help combat this kind of feedback. That's a pretty good place to transition into the way this film was received. Because while we mentioned at the beginning here that it's received a critical reappraisal as of late and has been hailed as the satirical work of art that it is. Phil Tippett actually refers to it as the most expensive art film ever made.
He would.
But upon release, this film was widely panned. I'd mentioned that it gets a lot of criticism because of the quality of the acting. Again, I will die on the hill that is not fair given what they were actually attempting to do. I think they accomplished what they needed to with the actors they chose.
Who would you say is the weakest actor in this?
The weakest actor?
Yeah.
That's tough.
I feel bad for singling out Denise Richards, but
maybe. Like, I don't want to say it was her because I did actually kind of like her in this, but and it was her first big movie. But
see, for what they're trying to accomplish, I feel like she was cast well. Is she a good actress? No.
Okay.
But for the themes that they're going for, I think she works. I'm not sure about Neil Patrick Harris.
Fair.
That may be fair.
He's so minor though that I don't he's not enough. And I just I love that he's a couple years off of Doogie Howser.
Right.
So
yes.
Like
he was actively trying to shake off that reputation.
SS Officer Doogie Howser.
I do love him at the end when he's just full Mangala.
Yeah.
But
I meant to look at the actors' ages, but of the main cast, I feel like he's probably the closest to being an actual teenager.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Either that or Xander for me.
Yeah, Xander was.
Patrick Muldoon, I think.
Yeah, he's in his 30s, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
and that is something that Verhoeven supposedly, I haven't found any actual citation for this just yet, but I've heard it a couple of different times that he actually wanted to cast real teenagers, like actual 15-year-olds and shit, and people were like, absolutely
that
not.
would have been so good.
No. Oh, I think it would have driven home the satire even harder.
I mean, the rating would have been what? Like, either unrated or X, seeing children blow their heads off?
Yeah, probably.
But you know.
But in the anime,
Yeah. There you go.
you can do that kind of shit. But I wondered if it was intentional, because there's a scene in the film where like all the new recruits are in, and they're very clearly like teenagers. I'm like, oh, was that intentional to?
Right. Yeah. After Rico takes over as lieutenant.
It's definitely an echo, you know, from the book, like, you know, were we once this green or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised. The biggest reason this film got panned, though, was that it was panned as being neo-fascist.
Not in Altoona, it wasn't.
How was the 90s?
So the most egregious of these claims came from the Washington Post. There was an editorial written claiming that the movie was made, written, and directed by actual neo-Nazis.
What would that movie even look like?
I mean, like that, but like with a little bit less irony. I mean, you know.
Yeah. A little bit more of that Heinleinian earnestness.
Mm-hmm.
Another critic, Stephen Hunter, claimed that the film was spiritually and psychologically Nazi, and that it felt like a bastardization of All's Quiet on the Western Front, glorifying the violence and horrors of war. And Roger Ebert claimed that outside of the satire, the film lacked any humanity or basic entertaining value to connect to the audience.
Right over their heads, huh?
Yeah, I just like how, like, I didn't understand it because I was 9.
Yeah, like that's my excuse. I was a literal child.
But like, he's like literally hitting you over the head with the like, this is propaganda. Like this is like
5 minutes.
This is a simulated newscast. Like my understanding of the framing of this film is that like you as the watcher are like watching a newscast. You're like, you know, you're like clicking on screen.
Right.
You know, they ask you, would you like to know more? Like you're navigating a proto internet, which like in the 90s when this came out, like did not exist yet. Like this presaged a lot of that like video headline clicking culture. Like it's so. It's visionary. I mean, it is going over people's heads, and they freaking missed it. And
they looked straight into that bug cloaca and thought he's being earnest.
They looked at Doogie Howser in an SS uniform and thought this is totally earnest.
SS uniform,
literal SS uniform, like had to have been Hugo Boss. Like
the normal uniforms are pretty fashy, but then you have Doogie Howser show up in an SS uniform.
I'm frankly surprised he didn't have a death's head on his,
me too.
I know.
The iconography,
I was just gonna say the iconography, the fucking flag, like the infantry flag is literally like an iron eagle manipulated slightly to look like a plane.
It's so good. Like there's like literally, the literal like propaganda indoctrination of Rashak in the classroom. Freaking the Golden Girl as the like
Rue McClanahan as the biology
professor with her doing her best like Doctor Strangelove like impression like how do you not see that is satire? Like she's literally like hamming it up as like a Nazi professor, like
100%. Oh my god, just like the whole look of her, from her glasses to her face makeup and prosthetics, like, and just the delivery of everything is so
they needed to be
impassioned and serious. Like
the only thing they didn't do is shoot their right arms up into the air.
Yeah.
I think that's what was needed for critics to be like, oh.
Right, they needed some kind of a salute.
It's truly astounding. Like, and this is another one that I haven't found actual citation for. Like I tried looking up like actual like newspaper reviews from when the film was released. I couldn't find this particular one, but I've heard reference made to a review where the reviewer claimed that they accidentally made it look like Nazis. As in, like, the filmmakers were so inept that they didn't mean to do this. Like, how on earth?
This is the sound of me face palming as hard as I can, comfortably. I just... Oh.
Listen, guys, satire is hard, but this is, like, barely satire. It's just, it's there.
No, that's part of why it is satire, right. I think, is that it's just it's laid bare. Like, the absurdity with which it is just thrown directly in your face is what makes it satire.
Here's the thing. When I was a child, I didn't get it, right? I thought it was earnest. I thought it was like macho, rah.
Yeah.
So in the same way that until I'd actually watched it, I thought King of the Hill was kind of a celebration of a bunch of the people I grew up with in Altoona.
Yeah.
And then I watched it and I was like, oh. They didn't have that moment.
No.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of 9-year-olds being like, Nazis.
And yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know, looking, coming from a different place, I don't know. But you would think that they would, like, I don't know. I mean,
I would love to have a viewing of the film with a bunch of those critics and just be like, here, we're going to reevaluate the film, maybe see if you feel different about it. You said 25 years? God. And see if they've picked up on it since then. Hope they've picked on it.
I think most people have at this point, just given, again, how well it maps to a lot of what we've experienced in the past decade in this country.
What do you mean, Joe?
Huh?
What do you mean?
You don't have any, like, crisis of, like, authoritarianism? No?
We don't?
Oh, you're talking about the big bugs.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I meant. It's all the bugs. It's all the bugs everywhere that we have to mercilessly shoot to shreds.
Right. Fuck.
God damn it.
So, there's this guy at work. I won't say his name. He's an older dude. He's kooky. He's like an older kooky dude. He like changes garbages, restocks things. That's his job. But he's gone above and beyond his job, especially during the summer, late fall, to go out in the courtyard with a broom and a bottle of like blue stuff and shoot the lanternflies out of the tree.
Oh.
He's doing his part.
He's doing his part. And he's not supposed to be out there. Like, the boss will like go out and be like, what are you doing?
The bug menace has to be destroyed. They're afraid, Jack. They're afraid.
I'll be working on my, whatever, my laptop, and I'll hear like a thud at the window behind me, and I know he's doing his part.
I will say for my own part, like, it gives you a sense of control of, like, in this modern hellscape in which we find ourselves. Like, you are allowed to be violent. And you are doing a good thing by being violent.
It's kind of a nice outlet sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely, like, it has made me think of, like, why do I enjoy this violence? Like, I'm extinguishing the life from these little things that have done no wrong. It's not their fault. Like, they find themselves in this system. Like, they did not choose to be here.
Interesting. So I would describe myself as a violence obsessed person. I wouldn't say I'm a violent person because I've not committed violence in a while.
Illegally undetermined.
I ain't been caught, but I hated killing those bugs.
Yeah,
like I did not want to kill them. When people are like, I'm gonna kill those stink bugs, I'm like, why? Whereas I would describe you as like not a violent person, but you're getting like that little bit of a thrill out of it.
A little bit of the old ultraviolence.
Yeah.
And because it is like it is morally proscribed violence, where it is like you are allowed to do this and you are doing the right thing by doing this thing. It is like, I should be what would Verhoeven say? And he would be like, you should think about this violence and like, could you like kill the egg sacs instead of like, or like get rid of the habitat, or like, I don't know. It's not all about lanternflies, but
we are the monsters, clearly.
Yes, you're like freaking an SS officer is like touching this bug and saying, "It's afraid, it's afraid," and like
afraid!
that is
so scary.
That is the climax of the movie, and like, how do you not get that? Like, we are the bad guys. Oh, are we the baddies?
Fuck.
Another detail that I think really drives home like what they were trying to do here. There were two countries in particular that really fucking hated this movie.
Really?
Can you guess which countries?
Germany and Argentina.
Germany and Italy, actually. Though Argentina is a real fucking good point to bring up. So you mentioned...
Why is that, Joe?
So let's take that pin out for a second here. So you mentioned in the book that Johnny Rico's Puerto Rican.
Filipino.
Sorry, correct. He's Filipino in the book. He's from Buenos Aires in the movie. All the main characters basically are from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Where the fuck did the Nazis flee?
Argentina.
Oh, Argentina.
Yeah.
That's what this world is. It is the future where that ideology rises again, and they're able to take prominence, and that's why everyone from fucking Argentina is white as hell.
That makes so much more sense. I was so confused by that.
No, I never see anybody talking about that particular point. It's like...
It's right there.
So in the book, it's not determined where, like, he's ancestrally Filipino, but like his dad went to Harvard. So like it's not really like his. So in the book, only Johnny Rico's mom dies in Buenos Aires, so she was visiting there. His dad actually becomes a soldier and like is his sergeant at the end. He's a lieutenant.
Oh wow,
whole big thing.
Yeah, that's way different.
Yeah. But so yeah, it's not determined where they're from. But again, it makes sense as an element. I mean, either like, honestly, I mean, if you're gonna make them all white, just like have New York get destroyed, or have like Boston get destroyed. The Mark Wahlberg version, have Boston get destroyed.
Absolutely would be what happened in the Mark Wahlberg version, baby. You know that's what would happen. There wouldn't be a Dunkin' Donuts left on this planet.
But that is very.
A Busey. Do we need a Wahlberg?
Yes. Always.
But no, they went out of their way to make it Buenos Aires. Like they made the protagonists, these hyper-Aryan looking protagonists that they were taken out of a Riefenstahl film, and put them there. Like it's
wow,
such a detail that gets completely blown over, and yet
I really like that.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right?
I didn't make the Argentina connection, and like I should have. Yeah, like
all I thought was like, man, those are some really white people from Buenos Aires.
Yeah. Like painfully white.
They are painfully white.
But
literally,
the other thing oh, poor Jakey boy. So there's another point with that though that I think is really interesting. So it's like as soon as Buenos Aires gets wiped out, the recruits at boot camp are shown like the news footage, and it's the same kind of news footage that we've been shown throughout the entire film in those cutaways, right? Mm-hmm. Like the same stylized lettering and everything. There's kind of a dueling narrative going on with this film from the very moment the film starts. When they show the title screen, it's just a black screen, white lettering, Starship Troopers, and you don't really see that kind of lettering again until the end, until the movie finally wraps and the credits roll. Everything else that we're shown is this hyper stylized, like entertainment, kind of entertaining thing being thrown in our face to kind of mask, or in fiction is trying to kind of mask the more nefarious fascist elements of what's happening there. So we're like literally structurally shown like the narrative and the meta narrative, like the trying to stay true to Heinlein's story to an extent, and then the battle against it, like kind of framing it.
Again, it's an in-universe propaganda film.
Yeah.
Like, we are being shown the propaganda film from the future.
What I thought of when I saw the immediate footage of Buenos Aires being blown to smithereens or whatever was how wildly quick they got those graphics together.
Yeah.
Like, did you guys have that prepared? Is there some conspiracy?
Well, I mean, it's literally like footage of a California wildfire. Is it? Like, it's obviously not Buenos Aires. It's like a mountainside. It's like, notoriously non-mountainous city, Buenos Aires. So it's literally just got like footage of like the last big wildfire that happened in California.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But like the bedraggled, soot-stained guy in the ruins of Buenos Aires says the only good bug is a dead bug. No, this is not propaganda. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Or reporter starting to like subtly bring up, like, some people have like a live and let live mentality toward the bugs, and just immediately gets uncritically cut off by Rico saying, "I'm from Buenos Aires," and I say, "Kill them all." And he doesn't try to rebut. He just lets that happen. Or the very obvious Tucker Carlson allegory or parallel character that pops up, who's the a bug with a brain. I'm offended.
Frankly, I find the idea offensive.
Oh, it's like so obviously like a pseudo crossfire segment that they've thrown in our face, like down to the bow tie, like.
It is, it's just, like, how much more obvious do you have to be? And the answer is clearly more obvious. Than, like,
clearly more obvious, apparently. Like,
the only thing I could think of was that if they had, like, a Ryan Reynolds style, like, sarcasm voice, and I wouldn't like that, but I'm like, I guess that would drive it home more.
He did the entire movie in that, like, sarcasm voice.
Yeah. It's an entire movie of just Ryan Reynolds's and Aubrey Plaza's as far as the eye can see.
Some weird genetics were happening.
And Aubrey Plaza, Carmen Ibanez. That'd be interesting.
That would rule. Yeah, I would like to see that.
She would eat Rico up. He would not stand a chance.
It's genuinely like kind of shocking though how like people haven't gotten it for so long, but there's also. Like, there is a contingent of this fandom that is far right. This has been one of those movies where it gets construed both ways, and both sides kind of claim it as their own in various ways. The Q&A that I watched, there's actually a really interesting bit of information that I picked up from that. So, first off, it's important to note that during the production and the writing of this, Verhoeven was working out of Texas, which was, at the time, governed by George W. Bush. And it was during a time where they were seeing a big increase in state executions. So that's actively part of what's playing in the background of his head as he's studying American politics and figuring out how to make that work in this film. Years later, Casper Van Dien is on a plane. I was on a flight to DC, and the person next to me was talking about Heinlein and how they love Starship Troopers. And I'm there reading another script, and he asked me where I'm going. I say I'm going to the White House for a charity thing, and he says, "Oh, well, enjoy it. I've been there for 7 years." So I look up and realize it's Karl Rove. Staggering.
Ugh.
Absolutely fucking staggering.
No, that makes so much sense. That, like, executor of people that are incompetent that don't fully understand what they did, George W. Bush, is like the inspiration. Like, that tracks.
It really, it lends another kind of painful aspect to the whole it's afraid kind of ending and climax there. Because, the further realization of, like, these things don't know what they're doing. They're just lashing out to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So the Mormons entered their space.
The space
right,
Mormons,
yeah, I keep forgetting it was Mormons.
Yeah,
it was that little detail.
Yeah, future Mormons.
Yeah.
They're in the Expanse. They're there in Starship Troopers.
I didn't realize they were in the Expanse as well. I haven't gotten into that yet.
The ship that is the big giant ship that the Belters get is originally it's a Mormon generation ship. They're trying to get to, like, Alpha Centauri to get away from the impure everyone else. And then the Belters take it over and turn it into Behemoth. So,
fucking Mormons, man. It's wild.
Yeah, that was a detail that clearly he stuck with me for 25 years. It's like we encroached in their space. The language, we don't talk about the language, but, like, colony is, like, the language of colonialism. Like, one of the ships in the book is the Vortrek, which is a deep cut, but so the Vortrekkers are the South African pioneers, quote unquote, who left Cape Town because the British people, like, wouldn't let them enslave the native African folks, and so they trekked from Cape Town to, like, Johannesburg and founded the modern white apartheid South Africa. And
Wait, so this is in Starship Troopers, or this is in The Expanse?
Starship Troopers in the book.
Okay.
It's just like a little detail of Heinlein. It's like, oh, let me name this like noble this ship like Vortrek, and it's like, you know, to him is like a good thing. It's like these are the pioneers, and it's like, oh yeah, this is who he's thinking of. It's like this is who Heinlein thinks are the good guys, and it's like these are the colonists who like, you know, founded a genocidal, you know, nation that literally came up with the idea of apartheid, like, and that's like a Heinlein throwaway that these are the good guys.
That's fucked. Holy shit.
So.
I'm just trying to find a happy thought in my head right now. So I've been quiet for so long. I'm just like, I need something.
I'm just thinking about Casper Van Dien's chin.
It's got a really good chin.
The squarest chin on the face of the planet.
Serves
My
good chin.
God.
Like, I thought of the image of people laying sidewalk concrete, and they put like the boards down and filled it with concrete. That's what they did with his chin.
Yes. Chisel
how do you think?
granite.
How do you think they built the roads leading into Hell's Half Acre? They used Casper's chin as the.
What else has he been in? Anything?
That's a good question. I mean, I know he's in some of the Starship Troopers sequels.
Is he?
Yeah, at the very least, he's in the third one and the most recent one.
I think I have him confused with Carrie Ellis in my head for some reason. Like, I know they are separate people, but I think honestly probably because that and Robin Hood Men in Tights are like two of the first like R-rated movies that I ever saw when I was really young.
Okay, there's a number of other things here. He was in Alita Battle Angel in 2019. He was in the 1999 Sleepy Hollow. 1998 Tarzan and the Lost City, which is one of the films I think we mentioned tanked at Warner Brothers in the lead up to Superman Lives being canceled.
He plays one of the rich dickheads in Sleepy Hollow.
Yes.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Good Dutch, you know.
I think he picks on the Johnny Depp character.
This year he was in an adaptation of the Most Dangerous Game that has a 3.5 on IMDb.
God damn it. All right.
So yeah, he's out there. He's acting. He's doing stuff.
Here's my happy thought in the middle of all this fascism. So that story's clearly in the public domain, right? The Most Dangerous Game. So in theory, we could do whatever we want with it. I've watched so many adaptations, and I'm just wondering what a knife breaker version of that would look like. And would he be...
Oh, dear God. I mean, you've already got an idea for Knifebreaker hunting a cryptid, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. The squonk, I believe.
It has to be the squonk, yeah.
Also, Knifebreaker in The Importance of Being Earnest in Space.
Yes.
And about all of these things.
I just want to hear Joe's Knifebreaker voice talking about cucumber sandwiches.
Man, you're gonna make me do the Knifebreaker voice when I'm sick? Come on.
No. Your head might explode, sending snot everywhere.
Oh, God. I don't want to do that to Becca's work setup.
Yeah, that'd be gross.
Explode like a bug cloaca being probed.
I don't know how they made that past, like, corporate. Like, how they didn't take a look at the blood cloaca brain bug, and they're like, no.
So, like, and the practical effects of that, like, just, like, judicious use of, like, lube. Like,
it's real lubey, real sticky.
It's so drippy. It's so gooey.
Yeah. Well, proboscis.
Fucking Phil Tippett's a fucking genius, man. The work that guy does to just bring that kind of stuff to life and make it so visceral. I watched that and I saw parts of what eventually became Mad God.
Very much so. I would not want to be his therapist.
Oh my God, could you imagine? Oh, holy shit. No, but that all goes back to the fact that there was massive executive turnover at Sony during all of this. Like, there was just, like, every few months, they would just fire whoever was, like, supervising all these projects until in the very end, I'm pretty sure Amy Pascal was one of them that they brought on to, like, finalize everything. And then she's the one that stuck.
I imagine she walked in the door and they're like, all right, whoever walks in the door next, they're it. They're the person who's got the job.
So, what was the fallout from this? Because we know, I mean, it spent $100 million, but I'm guessing they did not make their money back.
Not domestically, but they actually did make their money back with the global market. I have those figures, as it just so happens. So opening weekend, it only brought in $22 million, so well short of the amount that they had spent here. U.S. and Canadian gross ended up coming up to $54 million, 814,377, and then the worldwide gross was 121,214,377. So they did globally make that money back. So it wasn't a complete failure. It's just domestically it bombed. It absolutely bombed domestically.
Can we talk about the legend is I don't know how true this is. So in Firefly, did they not use the military, the helmets and the equipment, they used that the leftover stuff from Starship Troopers from Firefly, right?
The Alliance helmets, if I'm not mistaken, are Starship Troopers helmets. I'm pretty sure that's true.
I'm pretty sure it's the train heist episode called Train Heist.
It is just called Train Heist.
Which, again,
simpler times.
Alliance is clearly fascists. So why did people not figure this out in 2002 or whenever Firefly came out? I don't know. The thing that struck me on my latest rewatching though is the love triangle-ness of it, of so in an early moment Johnny wants Carmen to say I love you, and she struggles with it, and then at the very end Dizzy finally gets Johnny Rico, and then she wants him to say she wants him to say I love you, and he won't do it, and it's and then she dies.
But she's happy because she got to have him, quote unquote, got to have him.
Got that dick.
Can't die happy now.
And then Rashak is Rashak / Dubois is the author insert, but he's just very libertarian. I won't give you advice. Joe, you and I were you literally were helped me write a sketch, whereas the libertarian of I will never give you advice. And Rashak literally the only thing to do is decide for yourself. Except then at the end he's no, dude, she wants to fuck you. You should.
Dude,
never pass up a good thing.
Yeah.
Man, can't wait to do Showgirls.
I am excited to jump into Showgirls because in the Q&A that I watched that Verhoeven did, he mentions that that's also received a critical reappraisal. So I'm interested to see how has that turned around, because this movie, while it has some issues and whatnot, nothing's perfect, but it didn't deserve the weird critical misunderstanding and backlash that it got. Of note, it was not nominated for any Razzies.
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers, yeah. Not a single Razzie nomination.
Didn't it get nominated or even win an Academy Award for Best Effects?
This does feel like the kind of film that the Razzie would just be all over, so I'm kind of surprised it was nominated.
You would think Casper Van Dien or as wooden acting, not terrible, it isn't intentionally, purposefully wooden, waxy even.
Waxy. So it got a Saturn Award for Best Costume Design. It was nominated for Best Effects and Visual Effects. So Phil Tippett, Scotty Anderson, Alec Gillis, John Richardson, all nominated for Best Visual Effects. Did not win, though. It did win the Saturn Awards for Best Costumes, Best Special Effects. It was nominated for Best Science Fiction Film, Best Director, and Best Writer. Hugo Award nominee for Best Dramatic Presentation. Yeah, it got a bunch of different nominations and whatnot here. Very few wins, though. Just that one, or those two wins at the Saturn Awards, it looks like.
So the year that Starship Troopers would have been considered for the Razzies was the same year that Batman and Robin came out?
The Postman. It was 1997 had a lot of crap going for it, if I'm mistaken.
Speed 2, Cruise Control.
I saw that in theaters.
The Postman.
Yep.
Shaquille O'Neal's Steel.
Oh, fucking Steel. God damn it.
Ooh, that is...
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Huh, I didn't know that Mila Jovovich was nominated for her performance in Fifth Element.
Rude?
Yeah, rude.
That is rude. I don't like that.
Anyway, I think there's enough shit that it kind of slipped under the radar.
It's this film's MO.
Well, Joe, you got anything else for us?
Oh, no, I think that about covers it. I think that is the long and short of Starship Troopers, and I think we did a fair job breaking down how silly it is to not catch the satire in this particular work.
If you were to redo this movie today, still have it be satire, what would you do to make it more noticeable?
Fuck.
Everyone has blonde hair and blue eyes. No brunettes, no redheads.
I think you need like literal like Nazi salutes or like something like really like like literally make their logo like a swastika with
right.
like birds instead of little arms.
Oh my
like,
god!
Bird heads, like the 4 Fs from Frank Reynolds from It's Always Sunny.
Right. You know what? I was going to say that I would have Taika Waititi direct it,
Ooh.
But then you brought up Always Sunny, and I'm like, no, those guys. That's their. I don't know if they've done a movie as like a crew yet, but that's their first movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
The gang goes to war.
Yeah.
Yeah, even then, like people don't get that It's Always Sunny is like about terrible people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of people think that they're supposed to take those characters seriously and like relate to them in any way, shape, or form. No,
okay.
Don't relate to that.
Same thought process. Did anybody watch Jojo Rabbit and think, "Oh, that Hitler's a really great guy in that movie"?
I think you would literally you have to do like Sky Marshal Hitler, like Sky Marshal Hitler Jr.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, who plays Sky Marshal Hitler Jr.?
It's got to be Taika Waititi. I mean,
he's got the market cornered on fake Hitler.
That's true. Oh, good lord.
No, I was going to say that I thought Michael Myers had played Hitler at one point, but I don't think he has.
No, he played a German in something.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman's do it.
No, because then we'll think he's actually Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll do it too well.
Too good.
Again, I don't know how much more. Again, I think people understand irony better. As a generation, we've been raised on it.
True.
That's very true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see the Taika Waititi starring Starship Troopers, directed by
Taika Waititi.
Well, I'm still leaning towards the guys from Always Sunny.
Oh, from It's Always Sunny. Okay, yeah.
If they don't
Rob
get it,
McElhaney.
Yeah, Charlie Day. Yeah.
That shower scene's gonna be gross.
Oh my god! I want the behind the scenes of those idiots directing by committee.
Just... Oh, no. Who's Frank in this film? Is he Zim?
Replace Clancy Brown with Danny DeVito.
I would like to see him standing with the cloaca bug at the end.
Just all lubed up.
Burrows his way through the bug.
To be clean.
Oh, Jesus God. Christ.
Well, I hate that slightly less, so that's an improvement.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair note to go out on.
And here's where, while editing, you cue the Always Sunny theme.
Yes, because we don't want to get sued.
Right.
It might be public domain.
Maybe.
It's not generic enough. Yeah. I don't know.
I'll look into it. Well, Steve, thank you for joining us for this bit of madness, for this bit of ridiculousness here.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime you have a science fiction author who could have started a cult and or did start a cult, please bring me on.
Hell yes.
Well, that's a Google search I'll be doing later.
So, Steve, do you have anything that you want to promote or draw attention to?
satire as is a thing, like critical reappraisal. Think about what you do. Think about why you do it. But I do not have a social media or otherwise online presence. But
Steve here to promote the idea of thinking about why you like the things that you like.
That is one thing that I can.
Thank you for bringing attention to that.
I do what I can. I'm doing my part.
On that note, thank you everybody for checking us out here today. If you liked what you heard, please like, subscribe, rate, and review everywhere you possibly can. We're on Good Pods, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're wherever you possibly find podcasts. Those ratings help us get higher up in the search results and help people discover us more easily. So please help us out there. Thank you to everyone who has. Thank you to everyone who has been engaging with us on social media. If you want to follow us there, you can find us on Facebook at DeRazzled Podcast, on Instagram at DeRazzled_podcast, on Twitter at DeRazzledPod. Pretend that didn't happen if it's completely burned to the ground by the time this airs. At DeRazzled_podcast on TikTok. If you have suggestions for stuff you'd like to see us cover, or merch you'd like to see pop up in our merch store on Redbubble at DeRazzled Merch, please email us at DeRazzledPodcast@gmail.com. And I think that about covers it.
You sure to razzle dazzle you? Is that a
Sorry,
thing I'm supposed to say?
I'm so used to Jack introducing that part that I forgot that I was the one that's supposed to do it this time.
I thought we were playing like a weird game of chicken. Like real quiet chicken. I think we both lost.
I think we did both lose. Steve won that game of chicken that we were playing.
I am the Razzler and the Dazzler!
Alright, that's how I'm leaving it. Bye.
Bye.